In the peaceful valley between the Malvern Hills and the Black Mountains of Wales lies one of the most advanced communication hubs in Britain.
Welcome to Madley, the largest Earth station in the world.
It's the beating heart of telecommunications. 65 satellite dishes and a network of fibre optic cables provide a gateway from Britain to almost every corner of the globe.
They carry hundreds of thousands of telephone calls, texts, faxes, internet and TV links here every day. And the chances are, if you've called abroad, it will have been routed through here.
When the dish Madley 1 was built in 1978, it had the initial capacity to send 2,000 international phone calls via a satellite 22,000 miles above the Indian Ocean to 34 countries in less than a second.
But today, 2/3 of Madley's communications are carried along a network of fibre optic cables, which can deal with 20 million phone calls at any time.
And it's thanks to these two technologies, from the communication satellites high above the Earth's surface to the miles of cables below the ground, that mean
we live in an invisible world of connectivity, which enables us to communicate across the globe at the speed of light, and all at the touch of a button.
In 1945, the science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke predicted it would take satellites positioned high above the Earth to overcome the limits of communicating with wireless over very long distances.
And his vision was amazingly prescient, because just 17 years later, Goonhilly Satellite Earth Station was built in Cornwall and became part of a joint British, French and American project to transmit live satellite pictures across the Atlantic.
On the 10th of July 1962, NASA launched the first active communications satellite, Telstar 1. And after a shaky start...
That's a man's face. There it is. There it is.
2 weeks later, 200 million people tuned in to watch the first broadcast live via satellite. Telstar also made long-distance phone calls an everyday reality, including the first call to Britain via space.
Hello there. How's it sound to you?
That's pretty good. You're very clear.
Although it could only carry 600 phone calls, Telstar had shrunk the wireless world a little bit more.
In the end, when there are more satellites still, you'll have television and telephones all over the globe, a shattering thought.
The original Telstar 1 only lasted about 6 months, but now there are over 900 active satellites in orbit, and 2/3 of these are helping with communications. Unlike Telstar 1, which circled the Earth once every 2.5 hours, modern communication satellites are geostationary, which means their orbit keeps them in a fixed point above the surface of the Earth.
Communication satellites act as relay stations. They receive high-frequency radio waves from an Earth station like Madley and retransmit them to a different location. And dishes like these are where the signals begin and end their journey. This is Madley 1. It weighs 290 tonnes, is 32 metres in diameter and moves less than a few millimetres a day as it tracks a satellite above the Indian Ocean.
So this is where the magic happens. When I make a phone call, what happens to the signal?
Well, basically, when you make your phone call, it goes to BT's national network, is routed then, if it's going to go internationally, to here at Madley, where it goes through some electronic processing in the main building before being fed across to here, the antenna building, where it goes through this waveguide. From here, it is combined, fed up to the antenna, beamed out to the satellite 36,000 kilometres away at the speed of light.
So is the size of the dish important?
Yes, it is, because the size of the dish determines how much amplification we provide and how much we can amplify the signal being received. So if you think of the dish as a car headlight, the bigger the dish, the wider the beam being provided by the car headlight. Obviously, nowadays, dishes can be smaller because satellites have got laser technology, if you like, comparing it to the car headlight, so we can focus energy a lot more accurately.
So what are the advantages of this kind of system over fibre optics?
Satellite is global. You can reach anywhere with it now. It will happen. So imagine a situation where you want to reach, I know, say a desert in a war zone. You can't run a fibre out, but satellite will reach it.
Wherever you can see the sky, satellite communication is possible. But it's underground where most of today's communication takes place. Over the last 150 years, the globe has been circled in over 1 billion kilometres of cables.
It's incredible to think about the changes that cable technology has undergone since the first copper cables were laid. Now, telecommunications cables, unseen and mostly unremarked upon, provide the web that binds our interconnected world together.
Since the 1980s, copper cables have been replaced by fibre optics, carrying data as light rather than electricity. Today, these cables carry 95% of global communication, much of which travels through Madley Earth Station.
From this transmission room, telephone, fax, internet and TV signals are sent down cables underground to either the BT Tower or to the coast, where the cables disappear under the sea to almost everywhere in the world.
And to make sure the signal definitely arrives, they send it by 2 different routes to the same destination.
This is what a fibre optic cable looks like. It's covered in this sort of durable polyurethane, which not only protects it, but is an excellent insulator. And inside, this is the optic fibre. Now that's only 8 microns across, so that's thinner than a human hair, but it's tougher than steel.
A fibre optic cable has a core of ultra-fine glass threads coated in a reflective material. An electric signal is converted into pulses of light billions of times a second and transmitted by a laser beam. Within the light are digitised videos, voices and computer signals. The outer walls act like mirrors reflecting the light onwards to its destination, where the digital information is converted back into electrical signals.
So is this your actual fibre optic cable then?
Yes, it is, yes. You can fit on, for example, this cable here, up to 500,000 telephone calls onto a single fibre.
My goodness, I mean, how does that compare with something like satellite technology?
It's a much greater bandwidth. Newer technology will also increase that. Some equipment here, we're looking at tens of millions of telephone calls per second on an optical fibre.
Down one single wire?
On a single fibre, yeah, it's very impressive.
That sounds pretty revolutionary,
It's pretty good, yeah. When you think we've gone from 100-odd years ago, from a single copper cable encased in thick rubber, going through to coaxial cables carrying analog signals, to the latest fibres carrying digital, it's amazing how things have progressed.
I guess that's the thing, we're the whole way through, whether it's 1850 or 2013, it's a linear technology, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
This particular wire, where does this go?
This is connected to our backhaul equipment, so there'll be a switch somewhere on site which will then connect it to the rest of the national network.
Zooms out.
Zooms out to eventually wherever it is in the world, India, Europe, America, anywhere.
It's like one of those giant telephone exchanges, just plugging wires all over, isn't it?
It's an invisible network.
All at the speed of light.
Very, very fast indeed.
Despite the merits of communicating without wires, we've largely remained a cabled world. But it's the combination of fibre optics, underwater cables and satellites that provides the vital infrastructure that binds us all together.
Today, we communicate in ways we would never have dreamed of 50 years ago. And importantly, we don't know which of the technologies we're currently developing are the ones that are going to revolutionise our future.